Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, again, thank you, Maxwell, for the introduction. So my name is Xiaochen Su. As Maxwell mentioned, I'm based in Japan. And today I'm here to talk to you about potential opportunities for you to study abroad in Japan as a university student, both at the undergraduate, at the and the graduate level. So as Maxwell mentioned, we are going through a bit of a crisis around the world right now with the COVID pandemic that is still continuing, and a lot of economic issues associated with the pandemic and the ongoing war in Ukraine. It is a difficult time, but I do believe that taking up opportunities to study abroad, especially in a place like Japan, will give you more opportunities in the future to develop your career. So today I'm here to give you a brief introduction of what that process entails and what are some of the necessary steps as well as the benefits of undertaking a project like this for yourself. So to help you understand the situation, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. So just give me a second while I share my screen with you. Okay, I hope you can see my screen okay. So this is my presentation, and I will get through this one today so that I can provide you with more information. So, sorry, just taking a little bit of time for loading the presentation. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen okay. Today I'm, again, like I said, I'm talking to you about the process of studying abroad in Japan. And you can see my name here. My name is Xiaochen Su. I'm from an organization called the Study Abroad Research Institute. I will give a little bit of a background on our organization as we start this presentation. So today, I'm going to talk to you about a few things. One, I'm going to give you a little bit of self-introduction and the introduction to our organization, Study Abroad Research Institute. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of studying in Japan from two aspects. One is about what you can do after you graduate from a university in Japan and getting a degree here. What are the work conditions like? What are the possible salaries you can get? And the second is the process of getting the degree itself. I'm going to talk about a little bit about how you can fund it and how much it might cost you. And finally, I want to close a discussion with the presentation with how our organization can help you, what kind of information that we have. So starting with the first part, what is our organization? So here's a long explanation, but we're basically a nonprofit organization that try to help students who never studied abroad, who've never been to a foreign country, to consider opportunities for studying in another country so that they can start an international career in the future. So currently, because I'm based in Japan and some of my colleagues that work with me are also based in Japan, our organization is mainly focused on Japan. At the moment, we're targeting African students like yourself and introduce them to Japanese universities. And our organization, as an NGO, we do not ask you any money for this particular purpose. So our essential goal is to do a few things. One is we talk to you, students in African countries, to get you interested about what is it about studying abroad in Japan. We also talk to different universities in Japan so that they will become more interested in taking you, African students. And we also try to talk to the government to a certain degree so that they can have the right policies to facilitate more foreign students coming to Japanese universities. So we try to reach out to different stakeholders so that we can have this process smoothened out and faster in the future. So why are we doing this as an organization? This has a little bit to do with my personal background. So I started this organization about 2 years ago to do what I just mentioned, trying to match foreign students with Japanese universities. So I was born in China and I moved to Japan when I was very young at the age of 5 before moving to the US again in middle school. I studied abroad in many places, including the US, Australia, UK, and in Japan as well. And the reason I am looking at Africa is because I worked in Tanzania, in East Africa for 2 years before I came back to Japan to study at the University of Tokyo back in 2017. And I recently finished my doctorate, PhD program at the University of Tokyo studying sociology. So based on my personal experience applying to University of Tokyo from Tanzania, I believe that I have some personal experience as someone who applied from Africa to Japan, to a Japanese university, and potentially might provide you some personal advice on that front. Okay, I hear some background noise, but hopefully there's not much issues. Okay, if not, I will continue. So after the introduction, let me talk a little bit about what is it like to study in Japan. What are some of the benefits? Starting with what are the financial benefits for you to get a degree from a Japanese university? So salaries can be quite high in Japan for university graduates. So in 2019, the average salary in Japan is, as you can see, somewhere around 40,000 US dollars. For people living in Tokyo, the capital and the biggest city in Japan, the salary can be even higher, averaging about $50,000. And these are for people who have a bachelor's degree. So, and for people who are specifically working as IT consultants, which is one of the more highly demanded jobs here in Japan, the average salary can go up to more than $58,000. So it's quite a good salary range. For people who have master's or PhD degrees, people who attend the graduate school, they're paid even more than what you just saw here for bachelor's graduates. So the more you study, the more likelihood that you will be able to earn more money. At the same time, while the salaries in Japan remain relatively high, it's becoming easier for people to get jobs here, even as foreigners. Part of the reason why is there are many jobs available compared to the number of applicants to the same jobs. So here the graph of how many jobs offers are available for each applicant that's applying in Japan. So I only have the data up until 2019 because COVID changed a lot of things. But back in 2019, right before COVID started, there were almost 2.5 jobs available for every person in Japan looking for a job. So you can see that it is quite difficult for Japanese companies to find the right workers for their company, for their work. And it's relatively easy for people who are looking for a job to be able to find a job here. And this situation will continue in the future, we believe, because Japan is currently facing a decline in population. So this is a projection of Japan's population up until the end of the century. So at the moment, Japan's population is a little bit less than 130 million people, and it is expected to fall to 85 million by the end of the century. So as you can see, because there are fewer workers available, it's going to be even harder for companies to find workers. And as a result, the average salary of workers might increase from now on. So it's a very favorable situation for people who are looking to work in Japan in the future. Now that's about the benefits of salaries and working right after you graduate. But what about graduating? Right? What about attending the school itself? How difficult is that? And that's the next part I want to talk to you a little bit about. So first, I want to talk to you a little bit about how much it costs to get a degree in Japan. And I'm going to focus on comparison with universities in Western countries that you might have heard of, and I have some personal experiences with. So I study at a university called Yale in the US, where a school costs about $44,000 in tuition for every year of attendance. Quite expensive. I also study in London, where it can be slightly cheaper or slightly more expensive depending on the course that a student studies in, but it's about the same amount as in the US, right? About $38,000 to $51,000. Same goes with Australia. I study at the University of Sydney, where it ranges from $26,000 to $41,000 a year. And that's all quite a lot of money for anyone, including people who are locals, right? Japanese university can be quite cheap. I study, as I mentioned, I study at the University of Tokyo, which is one of the best public schools in Japan. For this university, the tuition is a fraction of what it costs in the 3 Western universities I mentioned earlier. It costs around $5,000 a year. Okay? So it's a fraction of what you can see in the US, UK, and Australia. You might say that $5,000 is still a lot of money, and it's difficult even to pay $5,000 in tuition, considering there are certain living expenses associated with coming all the way to Japan and living here, right? So how do you fund your studies in Japan becomes a big question for people. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the scholarships that are on offer to help you find the money that you need to pay for your studies in Japan. So every year, an organization called the Japan Student Services Organization has this scholarship pamphlet that details some of the major scholarship options for foreign students. The Japan Student Services Organization, or JASO for short, is a Japanese government agency that's under the country's Ministry of Culture. And part of its mandate is to bring in more international students to the country. So it provides a very interesting pamphlet that details some of the main scholarships options for foreign students. And just to give you a brief summary of this pamphlet's content, well, it gives many different types of scholarships that are on offer for foreign students. Some are what we call national government scholarships. So these are given by the Japanese government at the national level to foreign students, and they include full tuition for whatever university you're attending, a round-trip airplane ticket from your home country for free, and up to about $1,400 a month in cash that you can use to pay for your living expenses while you're living and studying in Japan. This pamphlet also contains more than 30 regional government scholarships. So these are given by local governments in Japan that are associated with the location of the university that you'll be studying at. And these scholarships give free tuition, same as the national government scholarship, as well as up to close to $1,000 a month in cash that you can use for paying your living expenses. Furthermore, this pamphlet also contains about 90 private foundation scholarships. So these are offered by companies, NGOs, and other private foundations that help foreign students study in Japan. On average, these private foundation scholarships. Sorry. Yes.
If you can hold, at least if you are not talking, can you put off your microphone? We are getting some feedback, which is from Dr. Su, who is doing a presentation now. All of us should mute our microphone. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for muting your microphone. Yep. In that case, I will continue. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are more than 90 private foundation scholarships. On average, these offer close to $2,000 a month in cash that you can use to help pay for your tuition as well as living expenses. So, even within,
My own day, I don't know my work on machine.
Okay.
Then CS I'm out to do.
Oh,
Massa.
Looks like there are still some.
Photocopy of documents attach machine list.
I can still hear some.
yeah,
voices.
Mr. Amatu, I see your microphone is on. Okay, thank you for putting it off. All right, we can continue.
Okay, great. Yeah, so as I was talking about this pamphlet, you can see that there are already more than 120 scholarships just detailed in this pamphlet. But of course, this pamphlet is not meant to be exhaustive in its content. There are many other scholarships that are not listed in this pamphlet that the university that you attend will be able to provide in terms of further information. So there are many opportunities to get funding once you're admitted to a academic program in a Japanese university. So scholarship is one way for foreign students to fund their studies while in Japan, but there are also other ways, one of which is to work part-time. So a Japanese student visa allows foreign students to work part-time at paid work for up to 28 hours a week during the school year, and for full-time during vacation. So when school is not in session, students can work more than 40 hours a week if they want to. So what do people do when they are working part-time? Here are some of the typical jobs available. English teaching is one. I'm sure all you guys speak English just fine if you can listen to me and comprehend what I am saying. Sorry. So English teaching pays about up to about $39 an hour. Of course, this depends on where you are employed. Some people also work in stores or restaurants where the pay is at about $14 an hour. And some people work in construction factories and warehouses where they are paid up to about $28 an hour. And of course, these are just 3 examples of what people can do part-time for people who have more skills or they have different interests. There are always other part-time jobs available for foreigners, and the university's career office can help you to point you in the right directions. Now, that's about getting a degree and how to pay for it. So lastly, I want to give you some brief information about how we as an organization can help you get into a university in Japan. So there are a few things that you need to do to get to Japan for studying abroad. So the first thing is studying the Japanese language. Most of the programs that are available in Japanese universities are in the Japanese language. Some are exclusively English, but those are a tiny minority of all the academic programs that are available. So for those who are interested, it might be good to learn at least some basic Japanese before you get to the country. And this is also good because once someone graduates from a Japanese university, working in a Japanese workplace, and of course living in Japan would entail the use of the Japanese language quite frequently. So to not learn the language at all is quite difficult to survive in Japan, both in terms of living and in terms of your academic and professional life. We also have information about our partner universities, academic programs, so we can tell you about how to apply, programs available, and point you to the right directions if you're interested in certain programs. The partner universities also provide us with the method in terms of application. Each school has a different application methodology as well as different scholarships that are available. So you will have to look at each university separately in order to understand and see which program suits you and your interests, your budget, and your timeline. And lastly, we can provide you some information about what is it like to live in Japan. Of course, none of you have ever lived in Japan, probably never been here either. So we can provide you with some information about what is it like to live here, how to navigate your daily life in this country outside of your academic studies. So these are some of the information we can provide you. And one thing we mentioned in particular is that we do have partnership with many Japanese universities. In fact, our staff members have direct contact with admission offices in these partner universities, and they provide us with information that are often not available to other people. Of course, the details are on the websites of the universities themselves, but at least we can provide you with more direct contact with admission officers as needed. So because we have that direct contact, we're able to provide you with extra tips and advice that will help you get into the university much easier than if you are to find information by yourself. That's it. All the information can be found on our website right here. We also have our social media, including our YouTube channel that I mentioned that we will post this video later on for those who cannot attend today's session. Any updates will be provided on our Facebook page, our LinkedIn site, so that when there are new programs available through our partner universities, we will always announce them there as well as on our website. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and let me know if you have any questions.
All right, Dr. Su, thank you for the insights that you've given through your presentation. So now the floor is open for questions and answers. So you can just raise your hand or mute your mic, ask a question, and we'll respond. Thank you.
Of course, I mean, if you don't have any questions now, I'm always available to contact by email, via our website. Yeah, I see a hand up from Amy and another one from Danny.
All right, I think.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, please go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know the admission portals or the kinds of admissions you have. You know, in the West, they have the spring semesters and then the fall semesters. I want to know how the Japan system also works. Do you have the spring and then the fall too in Japan? And if, yes, and the second question is for the fall semester or the semester that starts in September, is it too late to apply into a university in Japan? Yeah, these are my two questions.
Great, thank you very much for your questions. Your first question, Japanese universities are generally organized into 2 semesters as well, a spring semester and a fall semester. For programs that many international students attend, there is a way to start at the fall semester or through the spring semester. Again, this differs from university to university, so I won't be able to make a general statement, but generally, yeah, having 2 semesters is the standard format. Some people who are interested may also take some summer classes between the 2 semesters, just like any other country, to be honest. Yeah, so there is nothing unique in terms of the semester system in Japan compared to other countries. So that's the answer to the first question. On the second question about the application dates, again, this varies from country to country. Although I had to warn you that because of the COVID pandemic at the moment, many schools are changing their policy and some have suspended the intake of new foreign students for the moment. So we have to continue monitoring the situation to see whether schools change their policies as Japan as a country changes COVID policies. So yeah, so this is something that I won't be able to provide a straightforward answer, but it is something that we'll just have to continue monitoring as the COVID pandemic develops in the next few months and years ahead. Okay, I hope that's okay, Amy. Who is next?
Hello, Sue.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Sue. Yes. So if I got you clearly, are you saying that they are not accepting international students into Japan?
At the moment, it depends on the school. Some schools are, some schools aren't. But most schools are currently not accepting them in the short term because of travel restrictions. So even if you are admitted into an academic program, it's quite difficult for you to get into the country at the moment because of COVID travel restrictions. So it's worth checking with the admission office to see whether their regular procedure for accepting foreign students are ongoing, or whether they have changed some of the procedures because of COVID, or they have suspended the measures. So a lot of things are changing because of COVID. So it's very hard to say at this moment.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I?
All right, Dr. Su, there's a question on the. Is there any fee to your services you render?
Yeah.
That is SARI. Does SARI charge for this?
Great.
That you run, that's what someone.
Yep, I see this question from Mark. Thank you for the question. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, SARI itself is an NGO, and we're here to basically provide information on different universities' programs to you. We're not here to make money off of this. We're not a business. We're just some people who are interested in connecting more African students to Japanese universities. So we, as SARI, does not have any fees for you to use our website and use our information. However, that said, because we are an information platform, at the end of the day, you will be applying directly to the university that you are interested in. So the university may charge you certain application fees and other fees associated with you being accepted into the program that they're offering. So that is something that varies again from university to university, and is something that you have to look a little bit more closely on the university's website and ask their admission officers directly. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit more for Mark. Great. Is there another question from anyone?
Okay, so I want to ask, please, how is the standard of living in Japan like? Is it high or very low?
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, sorry, yeah, the cost of living is something that I didn't include in the presentation. I do get this question a lot, so it's probably best that I do provide some verbal information on what is it like to survive here. As a reference, a meal in a Japanese restaurant will set you back about $7 or $8 in a sit-down restaurant. In a fast food place, it might be slightly cheaper at about $3 or $4. Rent for a small apartment will, depending on the place, set you back about $300 to $400. So that is kind of the cost that you're looking at should you decide to come to live in Japan. So I did mention the scholarships that if you get, you offer somewhere around $1,000 a month in terms of cash to help offset your living expenses. And that should be sufficient for you as a single person to live in Japan without any problems. And you might even save a little bit of money with $1,000 a month. Yeah. I hope that clarifies things a little bit.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello.
Hi there.
All right, we are still in the
Yes, so I want to
session.
know.
Okay, someone on the line. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I want to know, as an international student, can you receive a national scholarship and also receive a regional scholarship, or you are entitled to just one scholarship?
Generally, you're only entitled to one scholarship because all these organizations, including governments as well as private foundations, they do talk to each other and to make sure that their scholarships benefit as many people as possible and not just one person who has multiple scholarships. So of course you can apply to multiple scholarships, that's an option, but at the end you can only accept one scholarship at one time, right? So if you have one scholarship, you have to turn down all the other acceptances of scholarships that you get. Yeah. Okay, any other question?
Yes, and then can a foreign student also bring his or her spouse or children? Does the student visa allow that?
Yes, the student visa does allow this. So you can bring your family as spouses on your student visa. I've seen many of my colleagues in Japan do the same thing. Of course, you know, if you bring your family, it costs a lot more money, right? Than if you are there by yourself. Depending on your spouse's availability and capabilities, he or she might be able to find a job while you are studying as a student, but there is no guarantees as to how possible that is, especially considering that you are on a student visa that makes your spouse a dependent of someone on a student visa. That makes the work situation a little bit difficult for a lot of employers who wish to employ someone like that. So it is possible, but financially, it could make things a little bit more difficult.
Okay, and my last question
Sure.
is with regards to admissions. You know, usually when you want to, in the West, you would have to reach out to a professor to see if he would accept you as a student and probably give you funding. Is it easy to get the national scholarship, or is it better if you get a guarantee from a school, or let's say a professor saying he's going to accept you as a student and also giving funding? Like, yeah.
So I think two things to clarify. One is that for most Japanese universities, of course, you have to sort of work with a professor once you get in, and the professor will be basically someone who guides you and acts as your mentor. But in the process of application itself, you're not forced to choose one particular professor. The professor doesn't admit you. The university does, and the academic program does. So for many people, they might contact multiple professors during the application stage, but after they're accepted into a program, the program itself will assign a professor to the student. So having, whether or not you have a professor recommend you for admission doesn't really change the process all that much. So that's perhaps one thing that's unique about the Japanese academic system that might differ from other places. So that's one. And two is professors don't provide funding. Again, professors are only act as your academic mentor while you're studying a particular program. They don't have the power over funding for you. Of course, they have their own research funding, but they won't be able to support you financially based on their own research funding, because you'll be studying, you're not going to be working for the professor as a researcher. So that's another thing that you need to be mindful of. As far as getting a scholarship is concerned, of course, some are going to be more difficult than others. The national scholarship that you mentioned will probably be the most difficult because it's the most generous in terms of the money that's available, and in terms of the number that is available, it is comparatively less, much fewer than the other types that are available. So, but even if you don't get a national scholarship, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there are many other scholarships that go through regional governments and go through private foundations that are not related to the government. So just because you don't get a national scholarship doesn't mean it's impossible to find funding. So that's another thing to be mindful of. Yeah. Hope that answers your question. Great. Any other questions? Well, yes, if there are no other questions, then we can probably end this session.
Yeah, are we all okay? We've done some 43 minutes, and I think this platform has given us things on our mind with regards to assessing universities in Japan, scholarships, and then work. And so I don't see with hands raised, so I believe we've had enough to guide us. And so Dr. Su displayed some social to read more, and even this presentation, like he said, will be on the YouTube page. And so Dr. Su, maybe you can display those pages so that people note of them. And again, you can always to TEERE or to him direct if you have the interest to study in Japan and you need any support. Like he made mention, your entry into Japan to study at no cost. It's free. It's a voluntary service just to connect Africans in Japan university. So there's attached to it. I always reach out for more clarifications. So I want to thank you, Dr. And also wish anyone who's interested the best of luck, to always reach out, and we are all here to thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Happy organize set meetings again so that we can refresh ourselves. All right.
Well, thank you. I guess there's a question from Douglas on whether we're going to get the slides. Certainly, I will share the slide with Maxwell along with some of the necessary contacts for myself, so that if you have any questions later, you'll be able to message me directly and ask me. Yeah. So yeah, I will send this information to Maxwell, and he can share with you later on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone, and yeah, have a good day. Yeah. Maxwell, please go ahead.
I just dropped my email there. You can feel free to contact, send me a message, forward all this and other materials to you. All right, so my email is there. Just give me a mail and I'll forward all the materials to you. Thank you. And we are out of here. Have a blessed day.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. And look forward to hearing from you again later on. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye now.